In 1994, a VHS tape arrived in a regional broadcast archive in a padded envelope with no return address. The package contained no letter, no paperwork, no explanation. Only a single cassette wrapped tightly in black electrical tape. Written on the label in uneven block letters were the words, "Play only once." The archivist who logged it assumed it was a prank, the kind that happened often. Students, hoaxers, people hoping their homemade horror would end up preserved somewhere official. He cataloged it anyway, and 3 days later he resigned without notice. The tape was sealed away after that, forgotten, unwatched, until a digitization project reopened the archive years later. That was when the footage surfaced. The tape begins with static, not aggressive static, not loud, just a soft crawling snow drifting slowly across the screen, accompanied by a low, almost comforting hum. It lasts for exactly 7 seconds. Then the image snaps into focus. A living room, small, dim, slightly distorted at the edges of the frame, as if the camera lens is struggling to agree on what it's seeing. A man steps into view. He adjusts the camera with careful hands, checking the framing, making sure he is centered. His movements are precise, deliberate in a way that suggests rehearsal. He sits, stares into the lens, and speaks. "If you're watching this," he says, "it means I didn't stop it in time." He pauses after that, listening. His eyes flick briefly to the left, then back to the camera. "My name is Elliot Marrow. I'm recording this because I need proof. Not for the police, not for doctors, for myself." He exhales shakily. "Things are happening when I'm not looking." Elliot explains that he began noticing small inconsistencies in his apartment weeks earlier. Objects that weren't where he left them, rooms that felt subtly wrong, too large, too narrow, too quiet. At first he blamed exhaustion. "I work with sound," he says. "Silence messes with your head when you stare at waveforms all day." He laughs, but it doesn't sound natural. He stands and begins filming the room. The camera pans slowly over the couch, the coffee table, the walls. Everything appears normal. Then the lens drifts toward the television. It's off. The black screen reflects the room faintly, Elliot's shape moving behind the camera. As he passes in front of it, the reflection hesitates, just slightly. Elliot stops walking, rewinds the tape, plays it back. The reflection lags again, half a second late. That's not possible," he murmurs. He turns the TV on. Static fills the screen, and for the first time since the recording began, Elliot relaxes. The next section of footage is time-stamped several hours later. Elliot is still filming. The lights in the apartment flicker irregularly, though no electrical issues are visible. He keeps rubbing his temples, wincing as if reacting to pain no one else can hear. "There's a sound under everything now," he explains, "like feedback, like the room is listening to itself." The audio track reveals nothing, but Elliot reacts as if the noise is unbearable. He presses his ear against the TV speaker, nodding slightly. "Static masks it," he says. "I think it doesn't like competition." That's when he says something strange. "I don't think it noticed me until I noticed it." As the tape continues, time becomes unreliable. Entire segments are missing. Elliot's appearance changes rapidly. His eyes grow sunken. His clothes remain the same for days at a time. His voice weakens, becoming quieter,
more cautious. He starts addressing the camera differently, not as a device, but as an observer. "You can see it, right?" he asks at one point. "The hallway behind me?" The camera shows nothing unusual, but Elliot steps aside. The hallway behind him stretches farther than it should. The bathroom door appears impossibly distant, its edges warped like heat distortion. "I measured it, taped marks on the floor. It's longer every time I check." He walks down the hallway. The camera follows. Each step echoes slightly too long. When he reaches the bathroom, he turns the lens toward the mirror. The mirror reflects the room, but not Elliot. The camera captures his reaction before the screaming starts, a slow, dawning terror, the realization that something fundamental has broken. After that moment, the tape changes. Visual artifacts begin appearing that don't resemble standard VHS degradation. Frames repeat out of order. Audio bleeds into earlier sections. Elliot begins responding to sounds that aren't present. "No," he says suddenly during one segment. Silence. "I was just watching." More silence. His eyes track something moving just outside the frame. "I didn't know watching counted," he whispers. The television becomes central. Elliot positions the camera so that the TV is always visible. Even when it's off, he insists it's still open. "I think it records back, not images, patterns, behavior." At one point, he rewinds the tape and freezes a frame. The static on the TV forms shapes, not faces, not symbols, but suggestions of structure, like something assembling itself out of noise. "It's learning compression," he says. "That's what I do. I clean sound, reduce noise, make it readable." He laughs weakly. "I taught it how." At 1 hour into the tape, something unprecedented occurs. Elliot sits in front of the TV staring at the static. The static begins to thin, and a face emerges. Elliot's face. Not a reflection, not delayed footage. Independent. It blinks, smiles. Elliot on the couch doesn't move. "That's when I understood," he says quietly. "It doesn't need me anymore." The face on the screen mouths the same words, perfectly synced. The final third of the tape is difficult to watch. Elliot barely moves. He sleeps sitting upright, his eyes open. His breathing slows to an unnatural rhythm. Occasionally, the camera captures moments where two versions of him exist at once, one on the couch, one in the screen. Over time, the balance shifts. The Elliot inside the TV grows clearer, sharper, more solid. The real Elliot begins to blur at the edges, his movements smearing like a damaged recording. In the final minutes, Elliot adjusts the camera one last time. "If I stay still," he says, barely audible, "it can finish copying." He sits. The TV goes silent. The static clears completely. The Elliot inside the screen steps forward, and the Elliot in reality fades, pixel by pixel, until the couch is empty. The camera continues recording. Minutes pass. Then the screen glitches. Text appears. "Recording complete." The tape ends. The archivists who reviewed the footage reported a shared experience. When the screen went black, their reflections appeared briefly and moved just slightly too late.